second possible answer to the illusionist basis. So, what was the first one? We have already seen. This one we have to redo. Yesterday we read it, so we will just read each sentence and see whether it is clear. If it is clear, we go on. If I have something to say, I will say it. So, answer on the illusionist basis to the second answer refers to the first one on page 466. That means 5 pages before this. So you can imagine how complicated is the the argument being given. Okay. So he has discussed the first case earlier. It's the Upanishadic case. Okay. That there are 7 planes of consciousness, and there is a gross world, subtle world, and the causal world. That's one explanation. So what you see at the gross world level is not the same as you see at the subtle level, and again not the same as the causal level. So now he is discussing the second possibility, that is Shankara's philosophy. Okay, so in a second possible answer on the illusionist basis to the problem in the philosophy of Shankara, which may be described as a qualified illusionism, because the illusionism is not absolute. It's a qualified illusionism. Okay? There is a half reality to it. That's what it means by qualified illusionism. And if you think that something can't be half real, we have discussed 3-4 examples of how something can be half real. One is the shadow. Okay, it is real so long as the illumination is there at your back and your shadow falls on the ground. So that's a real. It's very, very real. But you shut off the light, there is no shadow. It will disappear. It is so unreal. That which is real sometimes and unreal sometimes, you have to qualify it as semi-real. Then we also discuss the blue sky. There is no blue sky there, but you are seeing it as blue. You can't deny it. And the rainbow, these are the 3 examples, very clear examples. There are many other examples, but anyway, we will give this example. Okay, so these 3. There are many other examples, but if you start discussing that, it will go out to another area. So we won't do that. And it's slightly more difficult to understand also. Second possible answer to the illusionist basis, the philosophy of Shankara, which may be described as qualified illusionism, an answer which is present and comprehensiveness that are extraordinarily impressive. We make a first step towards the solution. First step towards the solution is Shankara. What I read, he says that there is an absolute reality, but there is also another reality. It's a practical reality. There is a reality outside time and space which is permanent, infinite, eternal. But there is another reality in time and space. In time and space, it is transitory. It is temporal. It is subject to the conditions of the physical world. Therefore, it is not permanent, but it is transitory. The world is permanent, but all the forms in it are mutable. They are coming into existence and disappearing. They are coming into existence and disappearing. That doesn't mean to say that they are unreal. It means that they are real when they are created and they disappear. So when they disappear, they are unreal. So that's it. Mayavada's solution, and Sri Aurobindo finds it very, very satisfactory, okay? Extraordinarily impressive. But even then, Shankara says that if you want the divine, you have to go from the semi-reality to the absolute reality. Whereas Sri Aurobindo's theory is, even the semi-reality is slowly moving towards the absolute reality. There is a slow evolution. The idea of evolution was not there 1000 years ago. So, I mean, in a sense, but not spelled out very clearly. So we make a first step towards the solution. For philosophy affirms a qualified reality for Maya. Maya is the one that creates half realities. It characterizes it indeed as an ineffable mystery. He agrees that you cannot understand Maya. Maya is something which cannot be understood by the human mind. Okay? It characterizes it as an ineffable and unaccountable mystery, anirvachaniya. But the same time, it does present us with a rational solution. Just 1 second. Now it has come. Yeah. So with a rational solution. At first sight, thoroughly satisfactory of the opposition to our mind. So Sendra is qualifying. He's saying at first sight, because later on he finds that there is a better solution. Okay? Even the solutions are all graded. So Srivda finds even a better solution. Okay? So, at first sight, thoroughly satisfactory of the opposition which afflicts our mind. It accounts our sense of the persistent and universe and our sense of the inconclusiveness, insufficiency, vanity, in a sense, a certain unreality of life and phenomena. Word, it's become very interesting. What is it? Shankaran philosophy. It accounts for our sense of the persistent and pressing reality of the universe. When we are at level 1, we are seeing the physical world. It is persistent. It is constantly real. It's not that it is like the shadow. It's not real and unreal. The physical world is real. Forms may disappear, but the physical world is real. Okay. All the forms may go on changing, but the background in which the forms are there, the universe itself, is persistent and pressing. It insists on its reality. You can't deny that. When a fire burns you, you can't say it is unreal and oh, it's only an illusion. You'll be shouting in pain. Pressing reality of the universe and our sense of inclusiveness. So when you see both the aspects, you feel puzzled, inconclusive. So what is the reality? Is really the physical world unreal? Inconclusive. You can't conclude anything. Okay? Efficiency. Somewhere something seems to be missing. How can it be that these two things are opposites and both are real? Not possible. Vanity. Vanity because if the world is unreal, why the hell did I have to experience it? It's a waste of time. Why did I come into the physical world if it ultimately turns out to be unreal? I've been cheated. Okay. Someone asks you, your business partner asks you to go to Madras, and you go to Madras, and he is not even there. And you feel, Arey, I've been cheated. Why did I come here at all? There's no purpose in my having come. I've been cheated. Waste of usefulness. Evanescence. That again, he is describing the things that are coming into existence and disappear. Evanescence. Each word is meaning something else. Inconclusiveness, you are unable to decide what is right and what is wrong. Insufficiency, you feel that something is missing. Something is missing that accounts for both the experiences. The uselessness of being born in the physical world. If it turns out to be unreal, what is the point? It's vain, it is useless. Vanity in that sense. Vanity has got many meanings. Vanity is also pride, okay? And self glorification. But in that sense, vanity means useless, vain. It has been a waste of time. Evanescence. Sorry. and then a certain unreality of life and phenomena. A certain, you did experience it as real, but suddenly it turns out to be unreal. So, for we find a distinction made between two orders of reality, transcendental and pragmatic. Even reality has a gradation. Okay, transcendental and pragmatic, absolute and phenomenal, eternal and temporal. A good example also of something which is half real is the cinema. Cinema is real so long as the images are projected, you are seeing it. Then suddenly when the projector is switched off, it doesn't exist. So that's unreal. So that's a pragmatic and transcendental. Semi-real is the uh, image in the mirror. You will see many videos where we are not tricked. We understand that it's the image in the mirror. But animals at a lower level of consciousness don't distinguish. They think it is real. And they go behind the mirror to see what that is. Very interesting. So that's why it is. We may not be fooled by it. We know it's an image. But it is half real to us. So long as it is a reflection, it is half real to us. So half reality is possible. So that's what Shankara says. There's an absolute reality and there's a half reality. Pragmatic. He is calling it practical reality. Transcendental, absolute. Pragmatic in the physical world. Absolute and phenomenal. Eternal and temporal. Different words for the same thing. Eternal above, temporal below. Absolute above, phenomenal below. The former, the reality of the pure being of Brahman, the absolute and supracosmic and eternal. And the latter, that means the lesser one, is the reality of Brahman in Maya, in the sense of the physical world, which is cosmic and relative. Very and giving adjectives to describe each one. The one is the above is one, below is the many, above is the permanent, below is the impermanent, above is static, below is moving all the time. So this is the, both are real in their own way. That's what Shankara is saying. In the temporal field of relativities, our experience of the Brahman who has become all things, the Brahman himself has become all things. The eternal who has become universal and individual is also valid. Okay? Lesser validity, but it is valid. It is indeed a middle step of the movement in Maya towards liberation from Maya. So, a middle step because there is an absolute liberation and a semi-liberation. Okay? So that's why. The universe too and its experiences are real for the consciousness in time. The question of the nature and extent of this reality at once arises. How real is it? Is it fully real or half real? For the universe and ourselves may be a true reality, though of a lesser order. There you are. Okay? Everything in the physical world, you see a gradation. No? There is more truth and less truth. There is more pure and less pure. Everywhere there is a gradation. So why should not the reality also have a gradation? True reality, although of a lesser order, or they may be partly real, partly unreal, or they may be an unreal reality. Okay. So we have discussed the unreal reality, so we have given many examples. If they are at all a true reality, no place for any theory of Maya. Are they absolutely real? Then the question of Maya does not even arise. The above is real and the below is real. They are all reality. Then Maya does not come into question. But Maya is the one that creates the becomes the many, it is Maya that does that. The formless becomes form, it is Maya that does that. Timelessness and Maya creates a time and space. So there is no illusory creation. It does not exist if they are the same. Partly real, partly unreal. What must lie in something wrong, either in the cosmic self-awareness or in our own seeing of ourselves and the universe, which produces an error of being, an error of knowledge, an error in the dynamics of existence. Okay, if you remember, 7 pages back, he has described that to determine the reality of the cosmos and the unreality, we have to examine 3 things. Okay, the sentence is I'm telling you because we are going to discuss that. From where is the sense of unreality coming? Is it in the perceiver, or is it in the perceived, or is it the perception that something is there a problem? So the problem is where? The one who is perceiving, or the one who is perceived, or is it your perception of it which is wrong? So now if you read the sentence, you will see exactly that. But so, if they are partly real, partly unreal, the fault must lie in something wrong. There is a problem. And where is that problem? Either in the cosmic self-awareness, okay, self-awareness in the cosmos, or in our own seeing of ourselves, okay, our own seeing of ourselves, because he is discussing 2 things. Seeing or the individual is seeing, you remember? Our own seeing of ourselves. And the universe, it produces an error of being, an error of knowledge, an error in the this sentence is telling you where is the problem? Is it the universe itself? Is it the individual who is seeing? Or is it the individual's consciousness which is a defect? So the problem still has to be solved. Error can amount only to an ignorance or a mixed knowledge and ignorance. And what needs to be explained then is not an original cosmic illusion, but the intervention of ignorance in the creative consciousness or in the dynamic action of the eternal and infinite. So, philosophy, the Shankaran solution. There is an absolute reality and there is a relative reality. So, what is creating that relative reality? That's what he's looking at. So, if both are real, one is half real or whatever, then there is a problem with the looking at things. And the looking at things, the perception, is calling it ignorance. Okay? You are not being able to see the reality. You are half blind. Sight is a problem. Okay? There is no problem with the physical universe. There is no problem with the the perceiver. It's the perception that's the problem. That's what he's saying. And he calls it ignorance. When you are seeing half things, someone who is half blind, he is not seeing the full thing. So the problem is there. You can have full eyesight and you can be totally blind, or you can have something in between. So man is at a level where there is in between. In matter, there is total blindness. In man who has evolved from there, he is half he is seeing the reality and half he is not seeing the reality. Therefore, it's an ignorance. You get ignorance. Okay? I go to the next sentence. But if universe and ourselves are an unreal reality, if transcendental consciousness, all this has no truth of existence and its apparent reality ceases out of the field of Maya, then the conception accorded with one hand by the other. Because when you are in the physical world, okay, it is real. But when you go outside the field of Maya, you see the physical world as unreal. So, concession accorded with one hand is taken. That's why insufficiency and inconclusiveness, and you are not, there is no satisfaction. For as a truth turns out to have been all the time an illusion. Maya and cosmos and ourselves are both real and unreal. But the reality is an unreal reality. Real only to our ignorance, unreal to our true knowledge. So therefore it's not a very satisfactory solution. Wonderful explanation. But there must be a slightly better explanation. That's why he discussing this one. Whole argument, as I told you, he describes three levels. There is Buddhism, not Buddha. There is Buddhism says the physical world is totally unreal. If you want the divine, you have to go to the Brahman. That's the only reality. Buddha comes and says, no, the physical world also is real, but real in temporal, in time and space. And if you want the divine fully, you have to go on. So, modifies and says, why didn't you go one more step? And that concede that there is an evolutionary ascent of consciousness in the physical world. So he's going one more step ahead. This is now we have a clear picture of the different phenomena. Whether the world is real or unreal, it depends on your perception. The problem is the perception. Neither with the seer nor with the seen. It's the sight. Is the problem. Okay? We can read the next one. It is difficult to see what. Okay, you read. You have not read for many days.
If nobody is reading, then I will read.
Okay.
It is difficult to see why. It is difficult to see why, once any reality is conceded to ourselves and to the universe, it should not be a true reality within its limits. It may be admitted that the manifestation must be on its surface a more restricted reality than the manifested. A universe is, we may say, one of the rhythms of Brahman and not, except in its essential being, the whole reality. But that is not a sufficient reason for it to be set aside as unreal. It is no doubt so felt by mind withdrawing from itself and its structures, but this is only because the mind is an instrument of ignorance, and when it withdraws from its constructions, from its ignorant and imperfect picture of the universe, it is impelled to regard them as nothing more than its own fictions and formations, unfounded, unreal. The gulf between its ignorance and the supreme truth and knowledge disables it from discovering the true connections of the transcendent reality and the cosmic reality. In a higher status of consciousness, the difficulty disappears. The connection is established. The sense of unreality recedes, and the theory of illusion becomes superfluous and inapplicable. It cannot be the final truth that the supreme consciousness has no regard upon the universe, or that it regards it as a fiction which itself in time upholds as real. The cosmic can only exist by dependence on the supracosmic. Brahman in time must have some significance for Brahman in timeless eternity. Otherwise, there could be no self and spirit in things, and therefore no basis for the temporal existence.
The next word he's saying, we'll do one thing. I will read out the summary of what he's saying. Once a reality, I'm reading this is not the text, it's a summary that I have made and I am reading it. Okay? Once a reality is conceded to the universe, like Shankara is doing, and the individual, whatever be the grade of reality, there is no reason why that reality cannot be full within the field of Maya. If it's a half reality, then it cannot be a full reality. That's what it is. We could admit a lesser grade of reality to be manifested as compared to the reality, the original to be manifested reality. World is there ready for manifestation in the supreme status, and that is real. But when it is manifested, it seems to be semi-real, but we can say that there are other problems and it's a reality. Okay, we'll see what that is. We could admit a lesser grade of reality to be manifested as compared to the reality of the original to be manifested reality. Someone will, if you are a very, very logical person, you will say, what gives you the right to decide that there is a lesser and a higher grade of reality? How can you come to that conclusion? We can answer that in the physical world, we see gradations are there everywhere. Okay? We see that light is graded. There can be intense light and there can be less light. There can be opposite of light. There can also be purity. A glass can be absolutely full of pure water. It can be semi-pure and it can be absolutely dirty water. So we see the reality is graded. So we can admit that. That's what we're saying. We could admit a lesser grade of reality to the manifested as compared to the reality of the original to be manifested reality. Okay, so the mind of man does get a sense of unreality and vanity of the world when he enters the Brahmic consciousness. That's a nirvana. But this is because mind, an instrument of the ignorance, carries its of dualities into the higher regions where they are no longer valid. The old burden of dualities continues to pursue the mind even into the witness self. It is not easy to negate the past luggage we carry into the future. This is my comment to explain what he's saying. When even in life, what we have done in the past is always hanging on us, and we are subject to law of karma. So even when you go from one level to another level, you are carrying your old baggage. So, and what is your old baggage? The sense of dualities, the sense of oppositions. A place where there is no opposition, and you see your old habit of seeing oppositions is there. And then you say, oh, the world is unreal now. But in a higher plane, that's the Purushottama or the Ishvara, this sense of illusion disappears completely. Third level, what we call it. The first level, the world is real to you. The second level, the spiritual planes of consciousness, the world is unreal to you. You go to the third level, the consciousness, the Purushottama consciousness, and there you see that both are real, but in different grades. That's what is. But in a higher plane, Purushottama, Ishvara, this sense of illusion disappears completely. It is true that the cosmos depends on the Brahman, but the Brahman does not depend on the cosmos. It is in this sense that the universe is of a lesser reality. The world depends on the Brahman. Brahman does not depend on the world. So when you depend on something, you are not independent, you are subject to something else. The world is subject to the absolute reality. But it's not an absolute. It's not a total unreality. The way you are seeing in the physical world because of your lack of perception is a problem. There is nothing wrong with the world. There is nothing wrong with the absolute. It's your way of looking at the end of the problem. In other words, if you want to go back to the original formula, the perceiver, the percipient, rather, if you want, so let's use the word percipient, perceived, or the percept, and the perception. So the problem is neither with the perceiver or the percipient, neither is it there with the perceived or the percept. There is a problem with the percept. For the level where the perception is incomplete, you are in ignorance and you see the problem exists there. That's really the solution. So, in the next book, he will describe how does this ignorance come about. That's the whole discussion there is how does the ignorance come about. What he's saying in this one. So we still have 15 minutes nearly. So we can read one more time. Now he has identified that the problem is ignorance. Okay? Not the absolute, nor the relative. The problem is the physical world is real, but you are seeing it as unreal because of your lack of perception. But even when you are in the physical world, when you are spiritually awake, you will see reality behind all the forms, and that the world is real, but not apparently, not the surface. Like the sea. The sea in a storm, okay, all the waves are moving up and down, up and down. They have been created and they disappear. But if you go down to 1 mile, 2 miles into the sea down below, there is absolute calm and quiet. So this is what you say. Behind the movement in the physical world, there is an absolute reality which can be perceived if your perception, if your ignorance disappears. And he is solving it in this way. We can go to the next sentence, the para, sorry. So, you wanted to read, can you read? But the universe is condemned. And doesn't seem to be there. Adi or Suki, what you can read.
Shall I read?
The universe is condemned.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, very clearly.
Okay, yes. But the universe is condemned as ultimately unreal because it is temporary and not eternal, a perishable form of being imposed on the formless and imperishable. This relation can be illustrated by the analogy of earth and the pot made out of earth. The pot and other forms so created perish and go back to the reality, earth. They are only evanescent forms. When they disappear, there is there is left the formless and essential earth and nothing else. But this analogy can tell more convincingly the other way. For the pot is real by right of its being made out of the substance of the earth, which is real. It is not an illusion, and even when it is dissolved into the original earth, its past existence cannot be thought to have been unreal or an illusion. The relation is not that of an original reality and a phenomenal unreality, but of an original. Or if we go back from Earth to the invisible substratum and constituent ether, an eternal and non-manifest, to a resultant and dependent, a temporal and manifested reality. Moreover, the pot form is an eternal possibility of earth substance or ethereal substance, and while the substance exists, the form can always be manifested. A form may disappear, but it only passes out of manifestation into non-manifestation. A word may disappear, but there is no proof that world existence is an evanescent phenomenon. On the contrary, we may suppose that the power of manifestation is inherent in Brahman and continues to act either continually in time eternity or in an eternal recurrence. The cosmic is a different order of the real form of the real from the supracosmic transcendence, but there is no need to take it as in any way non-existent or unreal to that transcendence. For the purely intellectual conception that only the eternal is real, whether we take it in the sense that reality depends on perpetual duration, or that the timeless only is true, is an ideative distinction, a mental construction. It is not binding on a substantial and integral experience. Time is not necessarily cancelled out of existence by timeless eternity. Their relation is only verbally a relation of contradiction. In fact, it is more likely to be a relation of dependence.
Depends on how you are defining reality. If you say that reality has to be necessarily eternal and persistent, it's a conception of the mind. Okay, there's nothing absolutely real about what you're saying. It could also be the other way around. You can say that something which a reality can be transient. Why should you not admit that? That's what you're saying in this paragraph. Summary goes like this. Mayavada or others as well condemn the universe to be unreal because it is temporary, transient, not eternal, a perishable mere form. The analogy of earth is really put forth to illustrate this point. The earth is permanent and the pot is evanescent. On dissolution, it goes back to earth. Earth is real, pot is not. It's a mere illusion. So, but Srindu says, but we need not subscribe to this view. The relation of the earth and pot is not of reality and illusion, but of permanence and transience. Timeless reality and time reality. It's a relation of essentiality and dependence. The absolute is essential and the earth is and the physical world is dependent. The form passes into manifestation and out of form comes into manifestation and transience need not be equated with unreality. This is a purely intellectual way of seeing and expressing things. It is almost a verbal matter and nothing else. It depends on how you are defining reality. I define reality as something that must exist through eternity and infinitely it must be there. But that's a definition. You can give another definition. Okay, that's what I'm saying. The relation of Brahman and universe are one of reality and dependence, a relation of permanent origin and a transient result. And result or effect, a relation of dependence. Final solution, what Sridhar is saying. If there are any questions, we can discuss it. We don't need to go in detail in this one because we say very clearly, how are you defining reality? If you are defining reality as something that must necessarily exist forever, then that's your definition. But I can give another definition. I can say that reality can be transient also. So then there is no problem. It's a verbal problem. That's what it is. 31. We've got 3-4 minutes. But is there any question we can? Otherwise, what he's saying is very clear. And next time, go to the next paragraph. Similarly, the reasoning which is the dynamics of the absolute. I told you, if you want to follow the logic, there is a bit of difficulty. But if you don't want to follow the logic and only see what Chandra is saying, he is saying something. The theory is a verbal. It's a verbal problem. So, the problem is neither with the absolute nor with the physical world. It is not with the spirit, nor is it a problem with matter. It is the perception. How you are perceiving, that's a problem. Ignorance is the problem. Okay? Up here today. Next time, 474 page. Similarly, the reasoning. We'll have to read it. Okay, then I'm cutting the link. All right?
Merci beaucoup.
Okay, yes, man.